Hey there, scrappy friend. Suzanne here in the studio today to talk about the current Workshop Wow from close to my heart called Smarty Pants. This uses the Smarty Pants paper line that is included in the core catalog, which just has a few months remaining on it. And let me show you some of the papers that are in this. And this is a great pattern here, best teacher ever. Great for making teacher cards if you wanted to, or if you're a teacher or student. Great for scrapbooking. On the opposite side, we have a very usable grid pattern. Next up is this peach solid with just some really small stars in white all the way throughout it. On the reverse is this nice notebook paper. Here's a fun piece of paper with all kinds of tennis shoes and loafers on it. Nice kicks, new shoes. Great for a back-to-school page or for any athletic page, really. Then we have these typed letters. Here we have that same black pattern that was the peach pattern with the little stars all over it. And on the reverse, we got this gorgeous cork paper. Next up, we have this lined handwriting paper. Remember doing your letters and learning cursive on that kind of paper? And on the reverse, we have paper airplanes. Very fun. Here we have a science-themed paper. This is really pretty. And then on the opposite side, we have sort of this black and white all over pattern. I didn't actually buy the paper pack or the sticker sheet. I had bought one of the National Scrapbook Day card making kits, and it just happened to have one piece of each of these 6 papers. So basically half of the paper pack. So I'm going to take that along with the cardstock colors they tell you to get, or if you're buying this Workshop Wow, they're actually included. Avocado, I actually pulled 2 sheets, nectarine, peach, candy apple, and white. So I'm going to show you how I can do most of this Smarty Pants workshop without having to buy any more product. We'll see if we can use some add-ins and some other substitutions to make our paper go farther. Okay, back in a bit. Alrighty, I'm back. Here where I'm going to go through quickly the cutting directions for the Smarty Pants workshop and explain to you how I made several substitutions in order to stretch the half pack of paper that I had into enough to be able to do all of the layouts. Of course, that was going to require me to use some extra add-in papers, and here are the add-in papers from the May and June catalog. I chose the Capri one, the nectarine, and then the black and white. So these 3 are the ones that I have added in to make these layouts. Quickly going through the cutting directions. Okay, as you can see here, I was not going to have 2 of these multicolor zip strips, so I actually cut the one I had in half. I ended up not using these or this one, but I did use this one here, and I'll show you how I made it work on a layout just using one. Over here, down here, this paper for layout 4, you actually needed 9 by 12 from here and 2 by 12 from here. So I just got both of those pieces from one piece of paper. And then for this paper, then I was going to have to substitute out. So I did that, and I substituted cork for some and the teacher paper for some other. When you get up to here, this is the peach paper, and again, we're using 2. And I looked at those layouts, and to me, it was more important to get the pieces for layout number 3. So I did that one first. And then here, you could substitute just peach cardstock, but I actually decided to substitute cork. And then since I did not have the cork embellishments that go with this, I could use some of this cork paper here to get some cork looking embellishments by punching paper. The rest of the cutting is pretty much as is prescribed here. So let's get right to the layout, shall we? Here's the first one. Because I didn't have the sticker sheet, I was going to make these to be a little bit more general and not so much school. And I was able to do that pretty easily. Here is the first. Again, I had told you I had substituted one of the papers, and this is the add-in. It's the orange grid. And then we have this blue grid here, and then we have the more iconic tennis shoe paper. And all of that is on this black and white add-in paper. You could have just as easily used black cardstock or even white cardstock for this. Black cardstock with some white gloss sprinkling would have been really cute. As far as my embellishments, as I said, the cork ones for this one, I went ahead and made them out of the cork paper, and that worked just fine. And then the other things were from my stash. I had an older tags die cut set called Fancy Tags, I believe, and although there were some very curvy and fancy tags in there, there were a couple of fairly plain ones too, and I thought that went best with this paper line, as it was closest to the tags and tabs set that they were including in the full workshop. It's just a very versatile set. If you don't already have a tags and tabs kind of die, you might really want to get that, whether or not you get the paper. It is available separately. Okay, and then all of these other little vellum stars and other accents were from my stash. And I really think this turned out well. This would be a great page just for when my husband and I take walks and have different scenery pictures. This would be a great layout to use for that. Moving on to number 2. This is one where they had used the blue grid paper, if you remember, and I wasn't going to have 2 sheets of that, so I substituted the blue flowers. I could have done this, but I thought with the peach that I liked having it whiter and brighter a little better, so I opted for the blue flowers on the white background. For this multicolored strip at the top, I actually went to my handy box of Close to My Heart zip strips. You can see I've got quite the stash of these built up over the last couple years. And this one had a lot of the colors that I needed. It had the nectarine and the yellow. And while it didn't have every color exactly, it very easily blended with what I had. On this page, I actually went to my cork stash, and I had quite a few cork embellishments, and so I splattered those around the page. Again, making another tag here. This actually I made from a journal card I had. We've got some die cuts from my stash here. So overall, I think it turned out really cute. Lots of colors, and they all seem to mix and match very well, don't you think? Again, the most complicated paper of all of these is the tennis shoe paper. All right, that was that. Then on this 4th one, they had used the science paper and the airplane paper. And originally, one of these would have been a full sheet of 12 by 12, and the other would have been cut up. But I had to cut up my single sheet of the blue paper, and then as well as my single sheet of the airplane paper. As you can see, then on the front, I used the red piece of cardstock to cover my seam and to adhere the 2 pieces together. Like I said, I had cut this zip strip in half, and since this was a 1/4 inch and it was supposed to be a half, I went ahead and made this a little bit wider to a half instead of a 1/4 inch. And then I decided to go ahead and add the 1 blue star zip strip to this side. And when I did that, I switched out, there was an avocado fishtail on this side, and I just decided to switch that out to sapphire as well. So I've got the dark blue here, here, and here. So there's a visual triangle of that across the 2 pages. These cute embellishments, layered stickers, popped up stickers are from me and my big ideas. I had just one pack that says I love nerds, and it had all this sciencey stuff. I thought that just worked perfect with this paper, and luckily the colors worked really well for this as well. I was able to use all but one of those stickers for matching colors. And then in the current catalog, there's I think it's called In a Book. It's a stamp set about books, and I stamped and cut this and then colored the different books with the colors that would match up with my papers. And here we just have an open book, and I added a little yellow along the edges of that. So this one is very school oriented. I have a son who went to engineering school, so I'm sure I can probably use a few of his pictures on this. Isn't that cute? All right, then having gotten all the double layouts out of the way, I decided to go back to that layout 1 and see what I could do. The first thing you might notice is that this is a vertical orientation, whereas the layout 1 was actually done in a horizontal way. But I wanted to use what I had the most of, and that was this Best Teacher Ever paper. So I adapted it. Here's that cork I had told you about. I had gotten a nice big piece of that out of that one paper. And then I have just layered it with a couple of strips of this notebook paper with the multicolor lines on it. And then some tabs. This is just a leftover piece from the stamp set that came with the Candid Moments, actually, as I believe is this green. And we have this over here too. And then again, a few cork pieces from my stash. And then I happen to have in my school stickers this A+ teacher. So that kind of became my title. That might be a little hard to see on camera, but looks real cute. So there you have it. Having the add-on papers really allowed me to stretch this kit. Let me show you those again. I had used 3 of the 6, so that means I still have 3 of the 6 left. And I think I'm going to try and play around with those. Here's a really good example. If you're not already using the catalog as an idea for layouts to make, here's one I am sure that I could get out of these papers. And as you can see, there isn't really any multicolored paper on here. They've used a little bit of Tutti Frutti, but for the most part, every paper is a single color or tone on tone. And because the values are all close together, they work wonderfully on this page. And sometimes all you need to be able to pull a lot of colors together is just a little strip of paper where you've got the various colors represented. And if you look closely at the add-in papers, you'll notice that a lot of the zip strips are multicolored. So this here would be a perfect substitution for this here, don't you think? Okay, I hope you find the ideas in this workshop Wow helpful, and the substitution ideas that can be used not only for this workshop, but for a lot of the workshops that Close to My Heart has to get you just a little extra. And if you have a bunch of add-ins left over, I challenge you to go ahead and get those used up. It's great to be able to use up paper as we go along, because Close to My Heart's always going to be coming out with more really pretty stuff, aren't they? All right, that's all I have for today. Thanks again for tuning in and watching. I would appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. And I hope to see you back here soon. Bye for a bit.